Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, or whenever you're watching this live. Today, I am with Tracie. Tracie, I knew only for about 6-7 months, but in that meantime, we feel like we've been long lost friends, and at last we met. So I have been working with Tracie on different issue to this. One of the reasons why I wanted her on the show is because I've been doing a subconscious work for about 1.5-2 years, and it was not going anywhere. Since I met her, I told her, Tracie, I want to work with you, but as a friend, I've got this problem of not working with friends. It's not that I don't feel comfortable. I feel it's friends. We can't talk. We can't talk open, and they know everything. And how is that going to work? I've got a weird way of doing things. So I said to her one day, Tracie, I want you to do hypnosis on me and see where it goes, because I feel I've got a lot of control over my mind than anyone else, which is just rubbish most of the time. But anyway, that was the story behind it. And then I said to her, I have got some deeply rooted issues. I don't know. At one point, I just broke down. I was like literally crying my eyes out and said, I want help. You know, sometimes when you ask for help, you need to be open as well. That's what I was at that point. I was like, I wanted help, and Tracie could help me, and she's my friend. She's not going to judge me. So that was one of those things which I felt at that point. And then she did talk to me and told me about the book. I'll ask her what that book is in a minute. Told me about this book about childhood trauma and stuff. So I was like, I read that book, and it was like, I know now. Now, Tracie is the person who can get me out of the habits which I have got, which is I can't save money, and I've got this shopping addiction. I wouldn't say addiction, but yeah, in a way, I would people would call that an addiction. So that's when I said, okay, Tracie, you've got to come and share this with everyone else. Let me read a couple of sentences about her. That's all she's given, but I've given you more background on Tracie. Tracie is a qualified professional counselor and clinical hypnotherapist. She works with people suffering from workplace stress and anxiety, burnout, and non-substance addictive behaviors. That's what I had, and she also helped them to live a happy, healthy, functional life. Functional being the key word, by clearing away the layers to change the limiting core beliefs. That is what holding us down when we want to achieve more. We know we've got that potential, but we don't know how to get there. So Tracie is the person who would help you to get there, and she's done that to me. So that's why I wanted this to be shared everywhere, to everyone who is in need. Hey Tracie, thanks a lot for coming on the show. You helped me a lot, and I wanted to share that with the world and take you on as well. Tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into hypnotherapy, and how did you find that niche? How did you know? What was that book you told me? I totally forgot about the book. I didn't find it.
I was nearly going to bring that book out, and I just I didn't. So, but I can tell you about it. So, to answer the first question, how did I end up becoming a counsellor and hypnotherapist? Well, it's like most things, it was quite a journey. I always had a fascination with the mind, and I had a dream of being a psychologist. But I had my own sort of issues going on, where I felt like I was, you know, my mother used to say to me, oh, you're not smart enough, and you have to go to leave school and become a secretary. And, you know, I didn't want to do any of those things. But that stuck in my head. So I never thought that I was smart enough to go to university. And before I had when I fell pregnant with my daughter, I decided to do a diploma of counselling to get me into university to do psychology. So I did the diploma of counselling. It was a 2-year course, and I did that in 12. I did it in the 9 months that I was pregnant, and then I got my diploma. I think Eva was about maybe 2 months old. So I was ready to go when she was a baby. So then I applied to go to university, and I spoke to the guy who was the head of the Australian Counselling Association about whether I should do psychology or do social work. So he said to me social work would be the fastest route to getting into helping people clear up their problems. So I decided to take the fast route and do social work. I got into the second year of social work, and I sort of I started to feel quite bogged down by all the, really working with people that probably don't really want to help themselves. So you might end up in working with domestic violence, child abuse, people stuck in generational patterns. And I just thought, I would walk away feeling quite depressed by all that. And then there was a few life situations that came into play. My daughter got an overactive thyroid, which just, that happens to old people, not little kids in grade 3 and 4. And then my father got cancer, and sort of like university all went to the background. And I became quite frustrated at that point, because it was like, well, if I can't finish this, and I don't really want to finish this, what do I want to do? But what I knew I did want to do was help people that really want to help themselves. So I got in touch with a friend of mine who runs the Australian Academy of Hypnosis, and I knew him before he became involved in hypnosis. So, I did a diploma of clinical hypnosis, paired that up with counselling, and here I am. So it's been quite a little long and winding road to get to where I am.
How old is Eva? 15?
Oh, she's 14, nearly 15.
14. Okay, she
Yeah.
might not like me telling 15. So she's 14. It's about 13 years ago your journey started.
I know, it was a long time ago. So it's been a long time. And to be quite honest, I am considering finishing university and finishing my degree, because that will just take me that bit further. But in the meantime, I'm quite happy with where I am and what I'm doing. And the answer to the question about the book, it's called Running on Empty. It's about childhood emotional neglect. Now, I don't know how I stumbled upon that. I think it was just looking through Facebook or online. Anyway, I stumbled across this lady, and I thought, I'll have a read of this, because I'm always reading things to do with different therapies and different modalities. And a lot of I don't know, if you look at the divorce rate, like 50% of people are divorced and 50% of people are married. So I guess we can safely say 50% of people are living dysfunctional lives, marinated in some kind of trauma and domestic violence and abuse. Underneath all that is some kind of addiction that's fueling all this negative, destructive behaviour. And then on the other side, you've got all these people that have come from loving, positive, happy, well, I would say mostly happy families. And I just, was really aware of child abuse, as in physical abuse or sexual abuse, verbal abuse, but I never really thought much about emotional abuse. And then when I read this book, what really was my big eye-opener was a lot of parents are well-meaning, but they're not emotionally supporting their kids. And for me, it was a really interesting read. And when I hear people talking, like if they're perfectionists or they're, various things, I think, that's emotional neglect. And it puts things into a very different perspective. And I found the book really, really good. So I think it's well worth reading for any parent that is living a more healthy, functional life, just to be aware of how you can be well-meaning and possibly be neglecting your emotional needs of your children. So I just think that book's just the most amazing book. So her name is Dr. Janice.
Janice. Yeah.
Janice.
I should have taken that book. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great book. So I highly recommend people get a copy of that and have a read, because it's a real eye opener.
What I liked about you is So when you recommend that book, we have not openly spoken about the issues which I had, even though we met about 6-7 months before that. We met in a challenge, a Facebook challenge group. That's how we got to know each other. What I liked about, or what intrigued me even further to work with you is, when you recommended me that book, I have not told you anything about these things which has been going on in my life at that point. I've been telling, oh yeah, I do this and I do that. Sometimes this is for other people. Sometimes you just go talk. It's always a surface talk. Oh, I do this and I do that. You almost put a face, a mask, to only say the surface things which other person want to. But when you recommended me that book, it was more or less like as if you've seen the sufferings without me telling you. You've almost linked everything together, the points, and he said you must read that book, and I think that will help you. Was your off comment, I must say. And then I said, okay, I'll have a look, and that's open. And another thing which I liked about you is you go to the root cause of the things. In therapy, I've not worked with hypnotists before you, so it was always been, I was scared to an extent, and I know it's powerful, but I was scared watching all these movies where they dangle the pendulum across, and it's like
stage hypnosis.
Now you're going into hypnotic state. I was like, I don't want to tell anything which I don't want to be public. What is that uniqueness of yours, which I felt is you go to the root cause immediately. There's a surface. Okay, I've got this issue with going and buying things, or issue with not being worthy and not deserving, but you go shop. So there's a two contrast things, and when you asked me about that, it made me think even deeper of what is my issue. How do you do that? It seems like we are million miles away, or that's the exaggeration. We are thousands and thousands of miles away. You are in Australia, Sydney, Australia, right?
Brisbane.
No, Brisbane.
Yes.
There you go. I don't even know where she lives. This is just ridiculous. And I live in Scotland. We are miles apart, but you still found that out from the talk. How do you do that? You didn't even put me to the hypnotic state at that point, though.
No, it's just listening to people's stories. If you're, not you personally, but if a person is doing something that is causing them problems, they're like running from some kind of pain to some kind of pleasure. Yeah. And if that then becomes out of control, it's a form of escapism to avoid the pain. But then it can become an addiction and cause you more pain and suffering than what you're actually running away from. So straight away, just from the conversation, I could see there was some kind of mask to cover some kind of pain. So just a few little things that you said, I thought, well, if you have a read of this book, I'm sure it'll resonate with you. And from there, it's up to you to decide what you want to do with the information. And then you came back to me and I remember you said to me, how did you know? How did you know that was my problem? And I just, from studying, reading, listening to people, you become, well-versed in your trade, I guess is the easiest way to answer that question. So then when you was telling me all your personal things, we were able to get down, and just by asking certain questions and taking the person down further, you eventually get down to what those core limiting beliefs are. And I mean, there's only really a handful of them anyway. So We can have a couple of them, one of them, more than one. It's just, it depends on the person. Everybody's different. It depends on how we've been brought up, how we've been conditioned along the way, what we're doing to cover our pain, how many masks we've got on. So it's just really peeling away the layers. But yeah, you're right, Sudha. I do like to get down to the core beliefs, because we can spend years going around in circles on the surface layers and not going down. And before you know it, you're halfway through your life thinking, what have I done with my life?
Yeah.
And, you know, then you can waste more years and get to the end of it. And, you know, I've done a fair bit of reading about people when they get to the end of their life, and all they say is they wish they had spent more time with their family and they had done the things they really wanted to do and not wasted time. So for me, I feel like I've had a lot of wasted time over the years, because I've been stuck with all these limiting beliefs of, oh, not, you know, you're not smart enough. But yeah, I went to university and I was getting high distinctions. I remember I got my first high distinction, and I went over and showed my father and I said, look what I got, you know, like, you know, here I am plenty smart enough. So, you know, all I had to do was a year and a half at university, and that was the end of that core belief. And, you know, it's just a matter of working your way through. But what I have found in working with people is, when you do get down to those core beliefs and changing them, there's a void. That's the only way I can really describe it, as a void. Like you've always been over here and you want to get to there, but there's a gap, a gap, a void, that you're going to be in no man's land. Where that's a really scary, uncomfortable place to be, because all you've ever known is what's been in the past. It's brought you pain, suffering, addiction, all sorts of things that you really don't want. And then you're moving to this whole new place where you've never been before. It's a scary thing to do. So I ask people, do you really want to change? Because if you do, you've got to let go of the past to become this new place. And it's quite a journey moving into the new place, because who's your role model? You need to start finding some role models to model with, some accountability, become aware of sabotaging patterns, which kind of leads me to the next part. Like, doing the hypnosis and the counselling is great, but then what do you do when you get to the other side and you're transitioning through the other side? So I found meditation's really good, because that can then calm your whole internal system down, so you're not just in fight or flight, or, you know, doing automatic things on automatic. You become so automatic in doing things. So in that meditative state, it gives yourself the ability to just get into that calm, peaceful place where you're just within yourself. Then when it also, it calms your whole nervous system down, and it changes your, now we sort of get into the energetics of things, it changes your vibrational rate. So then when you're coming out of that meditative state and you've got your goals that you're set for the day, you can focus mindfully and purposefully upon those goals to achieve where you want to go. So I found, like, when I do work with people now, I like to add in mindfulness. So if you're become aware of your thinking, like mindfulness and CBT are two of the other components that I use with people, and acceptance commitments therapy. So getting into the mindful state, if you become aware of your thinking, if your thinking is starting to create sabotaging patterns, you can then use that same thinking to then change it around. So you could take a deep breath and pause, and then listen to 5 things in the environment. So that will then bring you present and take you out of the chatter in your head. Then look for 5 things, and feel 5 things, smell 5 things. That then brings you back into the present moment, and becoming the observer of those thoughts. So then you can be looking at your thoughts, and if they're negative thoughts, then you can use cognitive behaviour therapy to then reframe something that's perhaps self-sabotaging, like, oh, I can't do that today because I don't think I can be successful doing that, or, you know, for example. So the more you practice, you'll realize, oh, that's a self-sabotaging thought pattern. Who told me that? So I'll just take a deep breath, pause, become aware, connect in to the environment by using the senses, and then have some empathy for yourself and compassion for yourself, and then reframe that thinking of, well, I know that I can do this successfully because I've done all these other things successfully. There could be times where you absolutely just, you want to do something, but you just can't for whatever reason. I can't even think of anything straight off the top of my head, but for whatever reason, you just challenge beyond your ability to change the situation. So that's where I like to do the acceptance commitment therapy part, is like, well, I just accept things for how they are right now. I'm committed to doing whatever it is that I want to achieve. So then it's like really looking at your values and taking value action in the direction you want to go, accepting that you might be able to you might not be able to change where you are presently, because it does take time to change. So I like to use all those modalities to help people maneuver the void and start working towards the healthy, functional side of things. And it takes time.
I know. So you have got the 6-week or 12-week session on, isn't it, now? So you take them from where they are to where they want to be in 12 weeks, and then after that you they can come to you for the top up, which I call it. So do you do it face to face, or do you do it like you did it with me, or how does that work?
I can do it face to face, but obviously if I'm in Australia and you're in Scotland, that's not going to work real well unless you want to come over or you want to pay me to come over. No, we can do it. We can do it via Messenger. We can do it via Zoom. I don't really like Skype that much. I prefer Messenger, or Zoom is the better of the two. So you don't have to be in my hometown, and I don't have to be in yours. We can do it via the internet, which is just the best modality anyway. And I think it's really good because you're in the comfort of your own home, so you're feeling safe and secure. And we can just get down to business. So and I think a season is really a good amount of time to make change, 90 days. So I like to work 12 weeks. If you get into like burnout, that takes a bit longer to get out. So I've got 14-week program for burnout. So if it's just like general stress and anxiety, or if you want to change some self-defeating habit, then I like to work over that 12-week period. And
do you work with... So if I don't want to commit for 12 weeks, do you have a starter program, a taster sessions, or like two sessions, 3 sessions? How does that work? Do you have it?
Yeah, sure. I can just do some general counselling and hypnosis for 3 to 4 sessions, depending on what it might be. So you might want to lose a bit of weight. So we can just look at, 3 to 4 sessions. If you want to go deeper, then we can look at the program. So it really depends on where the person's at, because not everybody's ready to go deep. You might just be ready to quit smoking or lose weight or stop shopping, just off the top of my head.
So what you also do vision boarding and other things, don't you?
Yes,
you do those workshops. And those workshops are in the city where
I've just been doing
online as well.
I've mostly just been doing it face to face in my local area and at the library, which they have really good facilities. But that's another thing that you can do via Zoom or Messenger. So the internet makes everything possible. So eventually I'd like to automate that. So that's something a bit further down the track. But I really believe that people like to work with people, and the human touch and human contact will always take somebody a bit further than just doing something online.
That's the most important thing, isn't it, to have that connection, human connection, even though we are miles and miles apart, as I said. And having that human connection, having that understanding, I felt the over the internet is safer, and I felt I didn't have that extra layer of stress, you know. When you're going for a hypnosis session, you don't want that extra layer of session or moving through the traffic. You get there, it takes a little bit time to just cool it down to get to that state of acceptance. Even listen to your voice. I was like, I don't want to. And then you get, I remember you did it last week, a session with me, and I was like, I was so enthralled by the whole meditation process you took me, and I was like, I wish I had recorded that session.
I know, but when I'm doing it, like when I'm doing the hypnosis with somebody, like I'll start off on, you know, sort of like with a general script, but it just kind of evolves and comes into its own what's what I'm looking for, its own growth, I guess.
It's its own personality, isn't it?
It just organically goes where it needs to go, and no two sessions will ever be the same.
Yeah, but you don't intentionally do the energy healing type like other people. You don't call yourself an energy healer or intuitive healer, but it does come into place when you're doing the session. As part of it, you do ask, or you asked me to write down what I wanted to, and send you what where I want to be. And your meditations, I felt at least, because it was more of what I wanted to be like. So you almost write meditation for me, or how does that work? Or you take a meditation script and then you tweak it so that it works for me?
Yeah, pretty much. I've got access to 400 different scripts. So I just look for what I like. If I ask you what would you like to achieve, then I'll just look through that big list and see if I can find something that is appropriate to your goal, just to get started. But then once I'm going, then I guess intuitively I know what I'm saying and where it's going with the hypnosis, and there is a degree of intuition in there. So when we were doing the session the other night, I started adding some other things in, and it was a really powerful session. I was really happy with it.
It was.
Happy with all of them, but that was particularly quite a very good one.
Yeah, I remember we've had about 4 or 5 sessions now, 4 sessions. In the first 2, it could be, it's not, even though it was very powerful, it took me a while to go into the hypnotic state of, whereas the last 2 sessions we were, it took me a lot more deeper. Even I almost lost the functionality of my body. Like my body was not controlling, or my mind was not controlling anymore. It was like, as you say, it was the observational state of like, there's someone who is driving you. At one point, I remember the last session, it was like I was dozing off, like, and then I woke up. Oh yeah, Tracie's saying something.
It doesn't matter, because your subconscious mind is listening to my voice, so you don't have to be aware of that, because your subconscious mind is just taking it all in, and it's okay.
Yeah. It was really good, and I wish many people will watch this and hopefully get in touch with you. And what do you say to a person who is a little bit skeptical about? I know you as a person have to be open, not have the skepticism and all of these doubts going on in your mind, because that can interrupt how much of work you are doing, and then they go combine, oh, that didn't work, because it is in you, isn't it? It's in the person who wants to.
It's an interesting question, Sue, because I worked with a lady a while ago, and she said to me, "Oh, I can't be hypnotized." So, no, well, if you can't be hypnotized, you can't be hypnotized if that's what you think. So, you know, it's going to be a bigger challenge if that's what you think. She she asked me to do some hypnosis for her, and I was I was a bit nervous because she was, well, I can't be hypnotised. I've been hypnotised before and it didn't work. And anyway, so I hypnotised. I did the hypnosis with her, and then I check in with her, and she's like, "Oh no, nothing's different." I was like, "Oh, maybe I'm not good enough." So there was that. This was right in the very early days, and so anyway, I went back and I did a few more sessions with her, and she rang me this one day and she said, I'm just ringing to let you know, and it was all about eating. She just wanted to be able to just eat just enough and leave the rest. She rang me and she said, I thought I'd just ring you. She said, I've just been out for breakfast with my husband and I only just ate enough and didn't eat the rest. She said, so yeah, I think the hypnosis does work.
Oh, that's good. That's a very good story, isn't it?
Yeah, so that was quite an interesting one.
Yeah, I was in that state as well. To be frank, but as I said, I've got more. I'm a control freak. I've got to control every bit of it. So it was more or less like you need to be open. As I said before, you need to be open and also receptive.
It's more helpful if you. It is more helpful if you are open and receptive. So the person will have more benefit from hypnosis if they are open and receptive. But some people, they're a little bit skeptical as well because they don't know what to expect. And if there is some, if you have got a few like to be in control of things, then you're allowing somebody to take you to a place that you've never been to before. So there's got to be an element of trust in there as well.
Yeah. Do you work? Who is the ideal audience for you? Do you work with kids, or do you just work with ladies and men who are going through this battle of oh, I don't want that, but I want that. I don't want that, but I want that. How do you do that?
Mostly, I've been working with women so far. Eventually, I'd like to work with kids, and it's a little bit tricky because you've got to have what's called a blue card, and I haven't got a blue card anymore, so I need to reapply for all that. But for the moment, I'm just working with women. I will work with men if they do come to me, and eventually, a bit further down the track, when I put together a program targeted at teenage kids, then I'll work with kids, because if you can work with the kids when they're young, teach them how to mindfully think and purposely think, they can then set their goals into action and energetically bring things into fruition and get on with why they're here and their purpose rather than waste their life. So I think it's really important, like thinking. Nobody really teaches you how to think, and once you, and I know that you get where I'm coming from here, once you purposely know how to think and use your energy in the right way, then you can bring your success into reality a whole lot faster.
Yeah, that is what my biggest challenge was. My biggest challenge was the way you have. I wouldn't say challenge. It was more of a block to me. Subconsciously, I blocked many things which I didn't want to open. And then when things had gone wrong, when something repeatedly happens to you, you start thinking, why is it happening to me again and again? It's like going to finding a same boyfriend type with the different names would be one of the example. But I was not going through that one particularly. But my pattern was I was going through certain life events which was happening as if it's just a time and day has changed, but the same whole. If you see the history of it, when you write a story, you would be writing the same story again and again and again, without even knowing that this is how this is gone. So it is very. I think I'm very grateful I met you in London at Andrew's event, and also before that, I think. So it was good that I took that step instead of having doubt. Oh no, she can't help me, or I don't think I can be helped. That's the biggest problem. I think many people think that they can't be helped. They are in that situation that feels so overwhelming that they think, oh, they can't be helped. No one can help them.
It usually takes some kind of big crisis for people to start thinking about, why is this happening?
Yeah.
If we've come from, sort of like that dysfunctional background, then we spend half our life, we tend to spend the second half of our life getting over the first half of our life.
Yes.
And there's some kind of crisis that brings us into, like, it's a reality slap. It just comes and slaps you really hard, and you either wake up and start looking at, what's going on, or it'll become painful. And instead of dealing with the pain, you'll run from the pain to the pleasure and take up some kind of addictive behaviour. It could be eating chocolate, it could be shopping, it could be relationships, it could be people pleasing, it could be a whole array of things out there. So if I start to feel uncomfortable now, I'm like, oh, this is good. Something's coming up for me to clear up, and I can clear it away and just get on with what I want to do. And that's help other people get on with why they're here and help them to heal the first half of their life to get on with the rest of their life. And as I was saying before, eventually I want to work with the teenage kids so they don't spend their, years wasted trying to get over the past. And not even aware of that they're going to have to at some point deal with the past.
Yeah, you've got what do I say? You've got two teenage kids yourself, so you would know how to relate to teenage kids a lot easier than some other people. I would hope so. So that's your advantage as well. Was another thing which I wanted to before you go. We are always almost 35 minutes in. So you've got this package. You also do stress and burnout for corporates.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So these, as I was saying, if you look at the divorce rate, 50% of people are going to be marinated in dysfunction. They could be in domestic violence situations at home. They could have negative patterns running in their life. There would be a whole array of stuff, and all that comes to work with you.
Yes.
And the more functional your workplace can be, the better the environment will be for everybody, and obviously the company's going to benefit at the end. So if you look at how Mind Valley runs, they're all about looking at the individual and what the purpose of the individual is, and weaving that into the fabric of the business so the person feels valued of who they are and what they want to do while they're contributing to the workplace. So I really strongly believe that a healthy, functioning workplace is really important, because you spend most of your time at work as it is. And I've worked I worked for British Rail International in London for quite a long time, and I set up the business in Sydney. I worked with a lot of tourist boards, airlines. So I've seen lots of different workplaces. And then I worked for Flight Centre as a product manager. And that was a really full-on workplace. They work you really hard at Flight Centre. It's a great organisation. They're all about their people, but there's a lot of, it could be quite dysfunctional at times in that place. So to have somebody working with people within the work environment, I think is absolutely crucial, because your bottom line, if you're turning over people because your workplace is dysfunctional and unhealthy, or your bottom line's going to suffer badly. So yes, it's an important place that people spend a lot of their time, and the healthier we can help people be within themselves, the healthier they're going to be in the workplace, the more productive they'll be, and the better the bottom line will be. And I really get excited about working with corporates. And
it looks like it. And before I go, I ask this to everyone. You're not the exception, even though I know you. So the very first question is are you a morning or evening person?
I'm a morning person. I like to get up early.
Yeah, you've got kids, so you've got to do that then. Are you a coffee or tea person?
Oh, look, I'm a coffee in the morning and then I'm tea for the rest of the day. So I was always Earl Grey. So now I've actually switched to organic chai. And when I run out, then I'm back to Earl Grey.
So what excites you the most?
what excites me the most? Oh, being alive excites me the most. Living my purpose, being on point with my kids, with myself, just getting out and about. I love being out. I love being social. I like being around people. So, yeah, life's exciting.
So what will you do if there is an alarm at your place, or there's a fire 2 o'clock in the morning, and you've got to take 3 things and run away? What would be those 3 things?
Me, the kids, and my bag.
No, the kids are not included. Kids are
Okay.
3 things.
Okay, 3 things. Okay, 3 things. I'd take my photos. I would take my books, and I'd take my money.
You are so different, because I've asked other people the same question, and if someone asked me this question, I said my mobile phone, my iPad, my laptop, and the chargers to go with that.
I never even thought about that.
That shows what my importance is, the electronics.
I didn't even think about the phone.
I know how to get it.
If I've got my photos, I can, look at my kids from when they were little. If I've got my books, I can read till my heart's content. And if I've got money, I can buy coffee, tea, food, and survive. Maybe I can go on your phone.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Because I need the phone to do the banking, so I need the phone. That's an excuse. Thank you very much. Really, I enjoyed this show, and thanks for coming along on the show and explaining to us how we go about in life. One of the things which I understood is if you've got a problem, the problem is within you most of the time. Once you get yourself aligned to the problem, and then everything goes away. It's more of acceptance, and also having that responsibility, self-responsibility that only you can take, how much over other people say around you. And thank you very much. I am going to close this off now, and I will take you off the screen, and then I'll close it, and then I'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Sorry, you wanted to say something?
Thanks for inviting me on. It's been an honor and a privilege.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem. Hello, everyone. You listen to Tracie, and I know I worked with Tracie, so I can vouch for it. Her services, and also her authenticity. That's more important, and the way she looks at it. There are quite a few people I would recommend. I'm not going to say it is not. She's just the one. But sometimes we've got to find that one. And I've got quite a few people in my friend circle who are mindset trainers, and who are hypnotherapists, and also people who work with HSPs. But I found my affinity with Tracie and how she works. And I feel many of you might see that same affinity towards Tracie and work with her as well. So that's my goal. Meanwhile, I am going to say good night. It's afternoon here. I'm going to say good afternoon. And if you're in the evening in the other side of the hemisphere, good night, and have a nice evening. And I'll see you all tomorrow or next week. Oh, next week, it's going to be a very wonderful interview, because it's about public speaking, and it's also about how you use your voice and how you use he coaches corporates and other public speakers on performance, speaking performance, and also using props and all of that. I've seen him speak in one of the contests, so I know this guy, Alex. So he'll be here to talk about, it'll be at 7 o'clock because he's based in Scotland, so it's going to be easier than it's with Tracie, who is in the other side of the hemisphere. That's all I've got to share with you. Have a nice rest of the day or rest of the evening, and I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.